What's up? This is Vanessa Satten at Double XL. We're with our Moments of Clarity podcast, episode 3. This week it's Rahman and Shaheem.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Iron Man.
The Iron Men. All right. So this is what's going on this week. We've got 50 versus Ja as usual, 15, 20 years later. We've got OutKast controversy, OutKast versus EarthGang, right? We've got Tekashi testifying next week, or that trial coming into play. We have potential launch of the Troy Ave trial starting next week. And then we have some special things that are going on is today would be the anniversary of Tupac's death. What year is it now? It's 96, 2006, 2016. It's 23 years?
23 years.
Am I doing it right?
Damn.
23 years, right? Where were you? And then we have today's the anniversary of Biggie's Ready to Die, 1994.
Yeah.
25 years.
25
Yeah.
years. So some big
Gee
monumental
whiz.
days or things happening today. And then I guess some interesting news this week. So where do you guys want to start?
Shoot, I guess,
50 and Ja?
Yeah, we could start with that, then work our way down.
All right. Well, actually, I guess, okay, so we'll come back to it. So Tekashi is going to allegedly testify on trial next week, where they're starting to select the jury for the case that he's testifying in, which is not his trial. It's the one he's supposed to be a witness in. Wow. And so there's going to be Tekashi. I guess we'll see him next week, whether he has rainbow hair or what he looks like. We haven't seen him in a while. But then 50 was on Power 105, I think, Breakfast Club, right?
Yeah.
He told Charlemagne that he doesn't fuck with Tekashi anymore, wouldn't take his call. And I guess doesn't have anything to do with him. And then he also said something to the effect of that the streets don't matter. Because I guess the big question is, if Tekashi comes out of jail and he puts out a hot song, is that going to matter? Are people going to fuck with it? Or is he a snitch and people don't listen to snitches? What's going to happen? And you guys had Mano as a guest last week.
Yeah.
Mano basically said he thinks that hip-hop is not really for the streets as much as it used to be, I'm paraphrasing, and that the audience might not care about that side of what street code and ethics were. And 50 said something similar. So,
Yeah, well, he was saying that, I think both of them was basically saying Tekashi's fan base, which a lot of them are younger kids, not really entrenched in the codes and morals of the streets, not really taking part in street activity, period.
Doesn't adhere to that lifestyle.
Yeah, they not in it. The closest they might get to it is watching it on Power or something like that. So,
He's watching a Tekashi video.
Right, he's watching a Tekashi video. Yeah, like I was saying last week, I think it's gonna be hard for him. I think he's gonna be an outcast as far as his peers.
That's the biggest thing. He's gonna be outcast. I mean, who's gonna fuck with him?
Yeah,
Like they were questioning fucking with him before this happened, right?
Right.
And you had a few people, 50, Nikki, a few people that work with him, A Boogie, right? But now you're on a whole different side of things. So are any artists gonna fuck with him?
But he was getting all this criticism from, the previous situation involving like a quote unquote minor.
Right.
Before
Right,
he came
right.
out, where they were saying, I know I was in conversations, with our team at the time, if we should cover him, like if it really made sense and if it was right and it represented the brand, because of what he did, and then what ended up happening.
I remember somebody called me. I don't remember what outlet, but somebody called me and said that they were working on a story about the media not knowing how to handle Tekashi.
Yeah.
Like you're documenting the culture,
Yeah.
so you be document what he's doing, but at the same time, if you're documenting him, are you co-signing him? And for some reason, it feels like media had a harder time understanding what to do than anybody else with any other crime.
But at the end of the day,
Maybe it was.
music wins.
Yeah.
So it's like, and I think that's what, that's what Mano was pretty much getting to, and I'm sure that's what 50 was getting into. And in addition, I'm sure that they was also shitting on the labels, like, they ain't worth shit neither, because they putting out Poison, and it's a different fan base nowadays. You got the kids who's the major consumers of hip hop right now is a lot different than what it was like 10 years ago. It's a very different contrast.
Doesn't that seem like that's what the challenge is for everybody? Is hip hop became as big as it possibly could. The fan base is not the core audience that it used to be, and hip hop and the people within hip hop don't know how to deal with the fans that aren't the traditional old fans, right? And now it's the music is being made for a whole different audience, but that audience spends money. So you don't want to give him up. So it's not just about making music for the streets, even though we want to feel like it is, right?
Right.
It's
Like,
you
are
know,
we
it's,
old?
I don't
And
think
it's not that?
I don't think we're old. I just think that it's a turnover in hip hop that's taking a little longer because, you know, we talk about Tupac and Biggie coming in like their anniversaries and stuff like that. You know, by the time they were ready to come in and take their place in the hierarchy of hip hop, the it was a changing of the guard. You know, KRS One and Big Daddy Kane and all of them, they started to slow down, and you know you could really see a changing of the guard. But now it's like the guys who were in, you know, some of the older guys, the Rick Rosses, the Fabulouses, the Jadakisses, Nas. We just went to a Nas concert. Even Snoop, like they're still active, they're still relevant, they're still putting out music.
And you know, like I was saying last week, I don't think he's gonna put out no more music, and partly because.
Interesting. I didn't see. I haven't seen many people say that at all.
Well, here's one of the main elements to it. People are talking under the assumption that he's about to get out of jail.
Right.
I don't think he's about to get out of jail.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure he's gonna be jammed up for at least like another 2 years.
The rumor is supposed to get out at the end of the year. Who knows what the rumor where rumor warrants? You know.
It's very hard to believe that, you know, an individual. And again, you got to know the system, you know. And if he's facing 47 years, you know, if that's the case, there's no way that he's gonna go from facing 47 years to being a complete free man, you know. And a year from now, who's to say that they're gonna be talking about him?
Mm-hmm.
Look at Bobby Shmurda. You know, like there's no you know, Bobby Shmurda was the man when he went in there, but who's to say what the temperature is gonna be like when he gets out of jail?
Without a doubt, and what you want to do. I mean, we all expected Shine to get out and release music, and
right? And you saw what happened there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's hard.
And you change.
Yeah,
you know, like that's another thing in hip hop is we never give you the opportunity to change.
Right.
Yeah, you know, we want the same person over and over again when we're not the same person over and over.
Yeah. And these guys, they might even be turned. You know, there's a Forbes article with Kevin Durant that came out this week, and he talked about being disenchanted with some parts of being an NBA star. And you know, these guys are young, man. Like, you know, Tekashi is still relatively young. Well, not relatively. Tekashi's young. Bobby Shmurda is young. I think he went to jail when he was 22 years old. So, you know, these guys might not even want to be in hip hop anymore after all of this that's going
But
in.
you come out of jail at 30 years old, and it's a bunch of 15, 16-year-old kids on Instagram who are, you know, are a driving force in things. They might just will not be interested in you. They don't seem to be interested in the same, like, lore and stories, and we're like, ooh, the famous Bobby Shmurda, the famous so-and-so. Like, they don't seem to care as much about stuff as maybe some of the generation before did.
Shoot, some of these kids, you hear them not even talking about the people that we hold in reverence, like
recklessly.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
you're like, you said that about Nas? You said that about Tupac?
Yeah, did you see Lonzo Ball was?
Yeah,
he was talking about Nas. I'm like, God damn, like it's no respect anymore. You would never see us.
Sucker.
That was some sucker comments though. That was definitely some sucker comments.
All right, so let's break it down 50 and Ja. So 50 says that because that was a big story this week. 50 says that about the streets and that he's not messing with Tekashi and wouldn't take his call. Then Ja Rule pops up. Do you have the tweet of what he said?
I do. See, the guy said, safe to say 5 won't be hitting 5 for 6ix9ine anytime soon. Ja Rule said, isn't that the pot calling the kettle black? Then he further comment, he said, here come all the dick riders, because I guess he knew that the fans were going to give him some of the backlash. And his final comments was, I love making you nut guzzlers big mad. Your hero 50 a hoe. I would add him, but he blocked me. Punk motherfucker can't dish it, can't take it. See the guy, come get your mans.
I mean, I block people I don't like.
But let me just to dial back for a second. Why would Tekashi call 50? And why would 50 be? Why would he accept his call?
All right, so then Isaac Wright
that
Jr.
right there doesn't even make any sense.
The Isaac Wright Jr. example, like then Isaac Wright Jr. came out and he said that he was gonna go to Tekashi and help him out, and then he knew when Tekashi wouldn't meet him that he was taking a deal or whatever, but that 50 was going to help him with that, get him a lawyer. Now, I don't know how true that is, but are we saying that 6ix9ine reached out to try and get legal help from 50? That's the only. I don't know. That's the only. I have no idea. But
these
that's
niggas taking his power shit very serious right now. There's nothing that 50 can do to help that man out in this situation.
I think See the God was just really talking about how Fifth and Tekashi was just so close at one time on social media. 50 called him his son.
Right, he made reference to him being his son. He said that's his mama's boy now or something.
Yeah, he liked all of the trolling that they was doing, and I think 50's his direct contact with Tekashi was through some of the Treyway people. You know what I'm saying? I think that was his segue into the Tekashi world.
he was on before Breakfast Club. He was on Hot 97, and he basically said that his introduction / connection was through his young homies. He said that was they peoples, and that's how he came around. And when he came around, he was like this real cool, innocent kid. And then later he would look at other shit and be like, "Oh shit." So I think that in his mind he already was probably like, all right, I need to
but also
do the Heisman a little bit.
Right, but also it's to say this is, if he is snitching, if he is doing all of this, then I am interested. If it is my kid, I didn't train him right? Like, I mean, you distance yourself from something when it doesn't feel like you need it around you anymore, I guess, right?
Yeah, it definitely... for me, like, I always took it like it was comedy, and it's just 50 being 50 when he was like, this is my son. But if you look at that time when they was dealing with each other versus how much longer like Tekashi like went on after that, 50 wasn't really around. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, why is everybody like, oh, where's 50? It's like,
I think it's John. I mean, I think it's just, are you tired of Ja verse 50?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost 20 years, 15 years later?
I mean, look, it's real beef. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, we don't have to, it ain't got to be aired out like that, because it's real beef. Like, you ain't got to be talking about it on social media and shit like that, especially when it's grown men. It's different if it's kids, but these grown men.
I don't know. Who calls people nut guzzlers? Like, I mean, that one was weird to me.
Yeah, I think Josh, I don't even know why he commented on that, man. Like,
I mean, he seems to be obsessed with commenting on things related to him, right? Ja regularly comments on things related to 50, or at least we've seen in the media in the recent past.
I just think,
especially with the thing of buying the tickets in the show and the first few rows or whatever. So I don't know if that set Ja off or what, that he felt like now more recently he has to comment on things. Or he might get a response.
I think they got to let it go. 50 is definitely going to respond. 50 loved it.
But I don't think you see 50 initiating with the Ja disses. I think, or the Ja comments, or he's not going on other pages to talk about Ja. I think he responds to the Ja stuff, but I think Ja initiates the thing between them. I could be wrong. Like 50's not going on our page and Ja said that and then commenting on that. Ja is doing that.
Sometimes 50 could be a troll too. 50 like to have a good time and, just have fun with people. But I mean, at this point, man, it's some of these kids now.
I think it feels like Ja's more stuck on it than 50 does. It feels like a little bit to me.
I think they gotta let it go. I mean, that's really the bottom line. Like, it's over. You gotta move on to the next one. Man.
It's hard though. When you say like I said, when you talk about like real beef, like, niggas almost lose their life and, like real violence and shit like that.
How do you let it go?
People live with that for the rest of their life.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But there's just a way to go about, handling like your issues with that. I don't think it's necessary like for the public, especially like when you talk about two entertainers, like regardless wherever they are, they still entertainers, and that's not for them. That's
but if you go back in the day, those beefs were handled in the public. Are we saying, do you think that shouldn't be the case anymore, or not theirs because it's been going on so long?
It should have never been handled in the public. And I think that's what a lot of the issues with a good portion of people had with it, was that it was aired out in the public. So it's like, now it's like, all right, let's stop. It's like, it's too late.
Yeah.
You talk about like 10 years or whatever now.
I mean, that's probably the biggest feud in hip hop history. Just the longevity of it, the violence involved, the music involved. It was. I mean, besides the violence, we never want violence, but when they was going back and forth with the records, it was actually pretty entertaining. It was pretty fun.
It was
when
definitely
it was
entertaining
at
at
the
the
height,
time,
It was
yeah.
very
the
entertaining.
records, Back Down, Clap Back. When Ja went on Hot 97, he was like, "You want Tupac to come back?" It was fun, man. It was funny, Then Irv with his comments and everything. The G Unit versus Murder Inc. It was very entertaining. They were both making big records at the time, and obviously Ja took a hit to his career, but I mean, at this point, man, this is almost 20 years later. It's like it's nothing could be done unless they actually meet up somewhere in a sanctioned pay-per-view fight and just really got busy. I don't know what else could go on.
It's
like
not happening.
they don't even.
And
have,
if they did, who would win?
I mean, it depends on what type of fight.
Come on, it depends on what.
What type of fight are they having? Is it a no holds barred? Is it a UFC? What are they having? Is it a cage match, WWE style?
Yes,
Gotta
it's a cage
say.
match, WWE style, 51st shot.
And who's the referee?
You.
And I wouldn't be the referee. I might get hit with a chair.
All right, so 51st Jaw. So we've got Tekashi. Another trial happening next week is allegedly the Troy Ave trial is supposed to start 3 years after the shooting. I think that was 2016, right? And it's been a long time, and now Troy's got a trial on his hands.
Shout out to Troy Ave, man.
Shout out to Troy.
I saw Troy in LA. This was a couple of months back, man, and it was funny. We was just in a random comedy club. I was with Charlie Mack, my man Charlie Mack from Philly, and we was in a random comedy club. Michael Blackson performed. One of Charlie Mack's new artists performed, and Troy Ave just showed up out of nowhere, and he seemed to be in a really good space, man. I just think that it's a shame because it just shows you that one night, man, could really change your whole life, and it could really derail what you had going on. Troy was very active, one of the most successful independent guys. He was one of those guys who's actually truly independent, because there's some people that saying they independent rap,
But they're funded by
and they
big
got
money.
They got the machine. They got the machine behind them. But he was doing his thing, man, and this whole thing, he lost one of his best friends. His career took a bump. It's been really tough for him, man. And I saw something where he did an interview and said he should be looked upon as a hero. I just feel bad that the whole thing the whole thing happened for no reason. It's like, just
But that's beef.
back and
That's
forth.
two guys who
Yeah,
were
that's
beefing with
beef.
each other, and
Yeah,
that was the moment it escalated, right?
That's definitely beef. But the beef wasn't even over really nothing, though. It wasn't like,
I mean, it's never really. It's never. If you look at it, it's never really over. It starts from nothing, but then it
It went
turns.
on
It
for a
turns
while,
into
though.
something.
I mean, you had a good chunk of time where that Taxstone was definitely going on him on Twitter, and
Yeah.
talking to him on Twitter and saying stuff about him and putting him down. How much did happen that we don't know about that wasn't social and wasn't
Right.
there between them
That's what
back
I'm
and
saying,
forth
yeah.
that heightened it to
but
a certain level.
when I say for no reason, Tax and Troy, did they have a prior relationship to this, or it's
If
just
I don't remember them having, and I could get everything wrong here. If I remember correctly, which I very well might not be, Tax just didn't take to Troy's rap style and him as a rapper and him as an
Right.
artist and made some comments, or it eventually got to the point where he was just kind of going in on Troy because he wasn't messing with him. I do think they had an early interaction, which I'd have to go back and
They did.
and read up on because I don't remember offhand. But it wasn't like they were on the same streets, on the same block with a 10-year
Yeah.
history of whatever it is, holding each other back from getting money or blah, blah, blah. It seemed like it turned into something with Tax as a podcaster and Troy as a rap personality, and I think just not fucking with each other.
my thing?
I don't really know, but I don't think it was like a
Yeah.
beef,
I think the bigger thing is, and this is something that I've done in my career, like, and I've always been blessed to have huge platforms. Like, I just feel like when you're in a position of power to have these platforms, I don't think you should use it to tear people down. I don't think you should use it to tear artists down and even their work. If you don't like something, then obviously you got the right to speak your opinion, but to consciously
All
keep
right, so
going
say
at
Tax
different
is
people.
if say Tax is spending a big amount of time trying to tear Troy down, right? Or say that was happening, and then they don't really see each other and cross the paths, and then they do that night. You don't want it to get to whatever that level that was, but you could see two people who are having problems with each other crossing paths in person when you're always kind of just around each other, but not. And then what happens from there?
Of course.
I mean, that's the crazy thing is it's kind of like the water boiled.
Yeah, of course, and we see what happens, the absolute worst case scenario. But I just think that when you doing these things, like some of these people that have these platforms, and some of these people, I'm not even talking about even podcasts per se. I'm talking about on social media
That's
and
right.
everything. You
When
got
you got voices, when you have a voice where people are listening to you.
yeah, you got to take in, for instance, that you talking about people. You know what I'm saying? Like these celebrities, they're in a position of fame and they've accumulated some money or whatever. But at
And
the
you're
end
trying to mess with their money ultimately, right?
yeah.
I mean,
At the
if
end
you're
of the
talking
day,
shit
they're
about
people.
someone and doing something and anti them,
Right,
anything is and if you try to take any of their credibility away, musically, whatever, the end all goal is kind of to fuck with their money, right?
right. And like I said, critics. I grew up watching Cisco and Ebert, and all different type of critics. Even with this platform of XXL, you review albums and everything. Like I've written a million music reviews and concert reviews. There's a way to be a critic, but also there's a difference between being a critic and just really trying to tear somebody down. And you got to be prepared for what comes with that, because this is a whole different thing, man. Like Rahman, we grew up in a time where we've seen where rappers actually came up to the magazine
Right.
after something was written and violence occurred.
Right.
Like even before we got in the game, I remember reading an article where Wu-Tang was looking for a certain person. You know what I'm saying? So
Mace.
yeah, it could get serious. Everybody is not gonna be the bigger person and turn the cheek. So it's difficult. When I say it just happened for no reason, I just feel like
It wasn't that serious.
it wasn't as. I mean, to bring death, no.
Yeah.
To bring death, no.
To bring guns.
That's a whole other thing too. I mean, with the guns, I don't think it's only for that. I mean, so some people, they just feel like they target. So that's a whole other story with rappers carrying firearms and different people carrying firearms. That's a whole nother story to itself. It's dangerous, period, to carry firearms in New York, because
Right. New York's a whole different thing with the guns.
Yeah, it's way more aggressive as far as like with the gun laws, and with Troy too. It is very unfortunate because again, that's a guy who we personally know, all of us. Always been a really good guy, and the fact that anybody could make something from out of nothing, which is what he really did, and took his craft, and for it to get to a point where
By himself again with
Yeah,
the
by
independent,
himself.
totally independent.
By himself.
Not with the secret record label that won't announce that you're actually signed to them, or the secret funding or distributor or whatever. Like he literally did his Harry Potter thing.
Yeah, and he loses like his best friend / his bodyguard and gets put into a situation.
I mean,
and,
not only that, that whole event, it led to him and Hovain and some of the other
and then the
people
whole
severing
and that,
ties too.
I didn't. The thing that I didn't like was mainstream media. These are not even music outlets. These are people who don't know shit about Troy Ave, and sitting in the house watching coming up 6:00. Rapper, blah blah blah. They showing Troy Ave from the security camera shooting and shit, like making them look all crazy, even though it doesn't not look crazy. But it was portraying a certain image, and it's like you don't even really know what's going on. And I felt like it was another situation that was just taking advantage of the culture. And it's like, why you ain't say nothing about the venue? How they got all these dudes packed up in this small ass room?
Exactly, and I don't
They
think
should be
there's
held
a
accountable
metal
too.
detector. How do you get the gun?
Yeah, and this is a metal detector.
You've got a bunch of rappers and a bunch of people coming to a show in the middle of New York City. Were there metal detectors?
Yeah, that's
How
just
did
really
the
wild.
gun get in? You know, I mean, I know everywhere I go on these things, there's a lot of metal detectors. I mean, you can always get a gun around a certain situation, but that was interesting.
But
in
you know
itself.
what it is? It's a, you know, sometimes you have artists, they don't want to go through the metal detectors and different things, and you know, artists could really say, okay.
I wonder
what
if they were
about
there
my
that
civil
night. I wonder if
liberties?
there were metal. I mean, I'm
I
sure
think
in
they
one of the
probably did.
cases or whatever.
They
I'm
definitely,
curious.
they
every
definitely
night.
was there. They let them slip in, and you know the hip hop police was out there too. That's the other thing. They definitely was there.
We went to a few of us went to the hospital that night after it happened to go see Troy, and we walked in and they said to us, he was in the back, and they said, he's back there, and they said the shooter's back there. We were like, the shooter's back there. Troy and the shooter are back there together. Like, we didn't know that Troy was the shooter. You know, that's what he was. You know, so we were like, what's going on? Troy's back there, and they've got the shooter and him. Are they in the same room? Are they next to each other? Who's the shooter? It was a mystery. Mano was there.
Did they let you in the room with him?
They didn't let us into the room. They let us into the area and the waiting area that he was in, and then there was a wing that he was on that the cops were keeping people from going down, and they just kept on saying, somebody whispered, the shooter's back there. So we were like, so Troy and the shooter are together back? Like, what happened? Somebody just shot Troy, killed Banger, and they're back there with him? Not really understanding that Troy was the shooter, or that's who they were talking about. So that was bizarre.
That's wild. And you know, son got shot. Like, you know, his man is dead. Like, you know, a young lady got shot, and that's
another
how
guy
you,
got shot.
Yeah, and that's how you chalking it up.
And it's a you know, it's eerily. It reminds me, even though it's totally different circumstances, it just reminds me of the Shine situation.
Yeah.
You know, like shooting up in the club, man.
Yeah.
And you know,
That's exactly
Shine was somebody that was right on the precipice of breaking through and becoming like this major rap star. Like I
It
remember,
ended all that, yeah.
Yeah, I met Shine real early in his career. Like when they put that first article out in what was it, in Blaze magazine, the first article about Shine where he was having a bidding war and all of that. I met him real early in his career, and we was in contact a lot, man. And then I remember he was on the bench for a while. You know, his Puff had other his direction was with other artists at the time, and you know, Shine, he was catching a little bit of flack because some people were saying he sounded like Big and all of that.
Yeah.
And you know, Puff's attention was elsewhere anyway, so Shine was a little frustrated. Then as he started getting his weight up, people started to get more familiar with some of the music that was circulating on mixtapes. Puff started paying more attention to him.
I love that Shine album.
Start building up. Yeah, the album, major album, man. And I remember.
Well, the Barrington Levy single was huge for him.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah,
that
that's-
really
that's
set
a
things.
hip-hop
Yeah,
classic.
that's a class. You
That's
know,
a
so
classic,
now we're
man.
all receiving him a bit more and getting over the Biggie comparison or whatever.
Yeah,
And that,
yeah, he was able to pave his way, and I was with Shine a lot during that summer after the shooting took place, and I remember him just being like really, really stressed out because he was trying to finish the album. He was going through, you know, so much with the courts and everything, and he was just really stressed out. He was not all the time the lovable guy who I met early on in his career. But fast forward to Troy, man, and you know, even with Tax Stone too, man. Tax, his podcast was popular. You know, he was on his way to
that obviously made him feel comfortable enough.
You gotta just my whole thing for journalists that's up and coming, and you know, I don't want to preach, but you know, I've been in the game. I've been able to do it for 20 years, man. Like, you gotta just take in consideration that the people that you're talking about are actually people too.
Right.
And you have power. You know, you got, like they say, power behind the pen. It's like power behind your words. You know, like, because now it's elevated from print to podcast / video, etc.
/ your social network.
Yeah,
Yeah.
your social. There's a lot of power there.
I just feel like I got into it to journalism, period, because I just felt like it was people covering the culture that wasn't really of the culture. You know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't a lot of at the time, like early '90s. I remember reading an article um, when KRS One. I think he was talking about Rolling Stone, how they didn't really have like black people writing for them, and I was like, well, let me get into it and help these people be a voice. And obviously the culture has grown where it's all encompassing of everything, but you know, if you're gonna be in it, to me, you just gotta try to uplift the culture in a certain aspect. And it's just a shame that this situation happened because, like I said, you got life loss, and then you have two people that were really on the upswing with on their careers,
their lives, their careers, of everything.
and
Yeah,
maybe just
it changes the whole course of how you're going to take care of your family, how you're going to take care of your kids, everything.
This
Every
is
plan you
something-
had changed.
Yeah, this is something that I'm not saying that they can't recover from, but it'll never be the same.
All right, let's shift energy off the streets and over to OutKast.
OutKast.
I guess not OutKast. I get EarthGang versus OutKast. So there was a big conversation this week about EarthGang versus OutKast, or
Right.
is OutKast and EarthGang the new OutKast, or basically that kind of thing. And then comparisons being made and them being kind of like two Dre's, which kind of shit on Big Boy a little bit, right?
Right. I mean, it was comments that Yes Jules made.
So it stemmed from Yes Jules' comments, that tweet that she put up about EarthGang being the new OutKast.
Yes.
Yeah, that's stemmed. Okay.
Yes.
And people did not like that.
I mean, everybody wants two Dre's. I think that a big part of it is from whose mouth it came from out of.
Okay.
Which a lot of people look at it as
Or
like
fingers.
or fingers, Twitter fingers,
Just as dangerous with those fingers these days.
IG fingers.
Yeah.
I think some of the people that got upset was that they felt that the comment may have been discounting
Big
the tremendous contributions that Big Boy has made in OutKast. Over the years, I think it's
But
because
her cleanup didn't do it any justice either. It kind of dug her.
Right,
wasn't-
which I was
yeah.
gonna say,
Yeah, it
coming
wasn't a
from
right.
what they look at as a non-representative of the culture. Go ahead, you can finish, my brother.
Yeah, I just feel like over the years, a lot of people are talking about Andre because he's been really a mystery man. Like, he obviously one of the all-time greats to do it. Like, his verses from Walk It Out to even on the Lloyd record to whatever he gets on.
To the idea that he's playing flute in an airport somewhere right now.
You know how many times I've actually seen Andre in the airport, just on the humble, just chilling. And
I don't care about that. I want to know how many times you've seen him in the airport playing the flute.
about 3. No, I haven't seen him.
Shot boy.
But
That's
let's say
flute
what the tweet was. EarthGang, this is from Yes Jules. EarthGang is like the OutKast of this generation, only with 2 Andres. I'm so here for it, and don't fucking at me.
Well, I know
I
when.
wouldn't tweet that.
Yeah,
that was bold.
But you're entitled to your opinion. That's the thing, is people are entitled to their opinions, right? So that's her opinion. But then I guess people are entitled to respond to your opinion if you make it public. So that's what happened, right?
I mean, OutKast they just a treasure when it comes to the culture. People just hold them in such high regard, rightfully so. All of the classic music,
But that's
what
why
they
can't
stand
you?
for.
I think then why can't you let them live? Like, why can't they be OutKast? Why does the next duo from Atlanta have to be the new OutKast? Why can't they be separate? Why, you know what I mean? Like, I think if they're held to such an extreme, why do we have to have a new version of a rapping duo from Atlanta or a rapping duo go and be the new OutKast? Why can't they just be the EarthGang? And then to that point, are they the same based on the level of success? I mean, the singles and the size of success that OutKast had seems like they wouldn't be equal to each other, right?
I mean, I don't think there'll never be
It's not fair.
another OutKast because, I mean, just what they did, the wardrobe alone, the ability to have such a direct link to the streets, to the pop world, and as we've seen, to outer space, like AT aliens, man. Like, it could never be the way they played off each other, just
Right.
what they did. They won Grammy of the Year. Like, you can't compare anybody to
So is it
OutKast.
blasphemy to even make the comparison? Like, that's what we don't, some people don't like that it came from her. Some people don't like that it slept on Big Boy a little bit. Some people didn't like that the comparison even existed, that anybody was trying to make the comparison. And people did agree. So it wasn't like she was the only one who felt like that. There were plenty of other people, if you look at the tweet, who liked the tweet, you know, who agreed with the tweet. So what was the problem in addition? Like, is it unfair to make that comparison to begin with because of what they've accomplished, and why should they be? If there's a new one, then they're kind of replaced, right? That's what the mentality is. If it's something new, the old one's kind of replaced. Is that the issue?
No,
what's upsetting about that?
I don't think that, because some people were saying
and
that.
then let's just say this does have 2,800 likes.
Yeah.
So there are other people who felt that that's true.
Yeah, I don't think it's total disrespect to say something is the new something. Like, I remember they were saying Nas is the heir to the throne of Rakim, and you know he reminds me of Rakim. At a certain point, they were saying T.I. was the Southern Jay-Z at a certain point. It's always gonna be comparisons in rap. Like, it's a competitive art form. Like, we always gonna say, you know, when a song comes out, who had the best verse. It's always going to be comparisons and contrast to it. I think, you know, you could actually speak your mind. I don't think she was intentionally being disrespectful. I think it was something that she felt. I can't speak for. I don't know what was actually on her mind. Sleepy Brown, he was saying that when he read it, he took it that she was talking about how the kids from EarthGang dress compared to Andre. Like, they
have to start wearing ski boots before I'll make that comparison. Once I see one of them wear ski boots, then I'll go there. But dude was on stage with ski boots, and we know how hard those are to walk in. So,
well, you see Nick Cannon and took over the turbans.
Yeah,
he's trying to bring the turbans back single-handedly. You know what would really silence everybody?
A new OutKast album.
A new OutKast album.
I
would love that so much.
And it would be such an interesting test of the time, of what people are responsive to, what people are receptive of. You know, like, it's been years without OutKast. Can they fall right back into line? I think so, you know, and make hit songs. And then how does the younger generation respond to that, who wasn't around or who was one when OutKast, you know,
especially coming out of the hotbed of hip-hop.
Yeah.
You know, right now. The only thing I felt like that was lacking in, you know, that comment was just to really identify, like, how much inspiration that they've given. You know, don't let it come off as if, like, you're downing, like, really important pioneers of the culture. Like, you know, like, uplift them.
But aren't we giving her too much credit to begin with by caring about what she said?
Yes.
You know, I mean, like, I would, no disrespect to her at all, but what does it matter?
Right.
You know, like, there's other people who said it and had an opinion. They'd be like, that's crazy that it came from them.
You know, and I say that with all due respect, you know, because I know Jules, you know, and she's actually, like, a really cool young lady. And I think she's a bit misunderstood. But these are things that fuels the misunderstanding. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't come out, and you got to be really careful. Like, you can't just come out and say some shit like that without providing, like, proper context.
Mm-hmm.
At least, you know, there was a previous situation, at least with that, you know, there was a video component, you know, where you can get a better understanding of it, but you just can't put out, like, a blind tweet or Instagram post like that, and then you're like, oh, don't at me or some shit like that. You know what I'm saying? Because she knew what it was spark. Right, because then you're undermining your entire purpose of what it is.
She knew exactly what type of controversy it would spark.
Yeah, and that's not cool. You know, we're supposed to be uplifting the culture, not, like, trying to tear down, like, legends and shit. Because, you know, clearly OutKast is, like, really phenomenal to the point where you even gonna make that comparison.
Mm-hmm.
How much OutKast does she know?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, how many albums does she know? How many OutKast albums has she bought? You know what I mean? So it's like, that's just the certain things of which you got to really be thinking about before you take that role. Like Sha was saying earlier, like, you just got to be really careful about some of the things of which you say. Like, if you say it and you mean it, that's one thing. But if you're saying it to draw, like, some type of controversy, or, you know what I'm saying, like, that's not.
So how careful are you
to
with the tweets that you put up when it regards your feelings? Are you going to say, well, I'm not going to post this because I know I've got some sort of voice within hip hop, Some people know who I am, and that might offend people based my feelings on this topic, not the outcast, but any topic.
I
Vice
say-
versa,
I-
so you're careful. I mean, if you say whatever you want, can't she say whatever you want, or do you edit yourself?
I say whatever I want, but I'm very conscious of what I say before I say it, and I know how to articulate myself and back myself up properly. And that's the difference. A lot of people just say shit, and then all these things that happen, they be like, "Oh shit, I didn't think about that," and I'm like,
But
"That's
I've
the
learned
problem."
a lot over time when you learn writing, when you're writing and stuff, and you'll write something and you'll have one perception of what it means, and then somebody looks at it as totally different,
Right.
and you're like, how did you get that?
Right.
How did you get that? That's not what I meant at all.
Right.
But you took something, but then I guess it's my failure for not understanding that you would take it in that meaning. You wouldn't take it the way I took it. You took it in a different way. There is a challenge in thinking like, how are people going to respond to what I said? And are they going to understand? Did I do the due diligence of explaining it a certain way? I think are you careful with your words? You might want to get your point across, but you got to be careful doing it.
Yeah, I just try to articulate myself in the best, and I think with Twitter, with social media, period, I think sometimes the impulses when it first comes across, everybody always wants to be the first or something to say something or respond to something, or I think it's an impulse that people want to write down or tweet out or put whatever in the atmosphere, whatever pops in their brain at a certain time. And I use self-control. It might be sometimes where I might see something that I don't like, or something that's just totally whack. I hear a song that was horrible, and in my mind I'm like, yo, this is the wackest thing on earth. But like I said, I'm not really here to tear down people, so I'll probably censor myself in that regard.
So sometimes it's easier to not speak on something than have an opinion about it at all.
Yeah, I'd rather be silent. Obviously, my first choice is to big something up. Like, I hope I hear something to come across something that's spectacular that I just want to big up. But if it's something that,
but that's hard too, because you don't want to be a fraud. Like, you don't want to be the cheerleader of everything when you're like, well, that isn't that good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To support it. So you got to find like a balance.
So
with all of it,
I'll definitely be silent on some things.
It's the safest way to go, right?
Nah, I don't want to. I'm not saying safe. I just feel like, like I said, man, I'm just trying to uplift.
Well, we need that. So good. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
we need. I need uplifting. So if you could text me every day and uplift me, that'd be great. No, he's not gonna do it. You see? All right. So, what? I'd like a text to uplift me tomorrow. No. All right. Tupac is dead. 23 years. Gosh.
23 years.
That's a long time. I can't believe it's been that long.
It's a long time for a legacy to keep getting stronger and stronger within this culture, which is a beautiful thing.
And what's so crazy is that when you listen to the music, his words were so prophetic, and they still are just so relevant to everything that's going on. Like, everything that Pac was rapping about,
he could rap about today.
He could rap about today, man. And I think Pac, if he would have lived, he definitely would have still been at the very top. You know what I'm saying?
Would he have been hip hop, or would he have transitioned over to Hollywood on some Will Smith, and we'd be looking at Tupac's son rapping?
I think
he was in the grasp of a lot of movies back then. Do you think he would have stayed in hip hop, or he would have been whisked away into acting, and we wouldn't have Tupac?
I think he would have been the perfect balance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I really feel that he was. I just saw something the other day where they said that Pac was up for the role of the role that Will Smith got in Independence Day, and I definitely know. I've seen interviews with the producers of Star Wars where he was supposed to be in one of the Star Wars films when they were doing the prequels and all of that. So I think Pac, his acting, just right away, Juice, the stuff he did on Different World, just right away, his acting was just so captivating. It translated into the music, and he actually went to school, the School of the Arts.
He went to performing arts,
to actually to do everything. When you go to those schools, like even back in the days, if you look at the old days of Sammy Davis Jr. or even the people at Vaudeville, they did everything. You know, it wasn't such thing as, oh, he's a singer or he's an actress. Oh, he's an entertainer. You know, Sammy Davis Jr., Dean Martin, even Jerry Lewis, Frank Sinatra, they all made that whole Rack Pack. They were putting out albums and movies simultaneously. I don't know if they had soundtracks back then, but they were actually doing, and they was going on tour while the stuff was out. So I think Pac just studied entertainment, you know, from those guys to Michael Jackson, and I think he would have had the perfect balance. I feel that he would have been one of those people. Um, I forget what you call it, but he would have won the Oscar, Emmy, Grammy, Tony. Like,
Oh yeah, you get the ego, right? It's
Yeah.
the Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, Tony, EGOT, right?
EGOT.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He
and
would.
that's John Legend, right?
Yes.
Did he
Yeah.
accomplish the EGOT? Yeah. I mean, there's a few people. I don't even know if I'm saying it right, but I think that's what it is. But I think he's one of them.
Pac, I think Pac
Pac
would
would
have
have
did it.
been.
He would have did that a couple of times.
Mm.
He would have did that a couple of times, and he would, you know, when he passed away, he was the biggest star in the culture, and I think if he was still alive, he would have also been the biggest star. But I think we would have seen um, some of the things that he talked about as far as being active in the community. I think we would have seen him do some of these things, like some of the things that the late great Nipsey Hussle, and it's almost fitting because the last time we did it, well, the second to last time we did an interview with Nipsey was at Rolling Loud in L.A. He had a Tupac shirt on,
Right.
and you know I always say that Pac talked about not being the person to change the world, but sparking the mind of the person that was going to change the world, and he definitely lit that spark in Nipsey. And you know, Pac died when he was still in his 20s. Nipsey passed away when he was in his 30s, and we saw, you know, what a 10-year difference can be. You know, like Nipsey when he was 30, he was able to manifest all of this knowledge, all of this willpower, all of this ambition, and put it into action, put it into activations in his neighborhood, into the communities. And I think Tupac in his 30s would have been a dangerous,
I
you
mean,
know,
you're right. And Tupac in his 40s would have been, what, 47,
oh
48
my
now?
goodness.
I
in
mean,
his 40s,
Yeah,
he
yeah.
might even be in political office.
Yeah, that's what. Imagine him right now in like this era of like the social justice movement.
all right, but he had some charges and he had some questionable background with things that he went to jail for. So do you think that would have held him back?
No,
No,
Mm-hmm.
no.
because it wasn't holding him back. You know, when he went to jail,
It made him even more
can't-
of like a hero. Sort
Yeah,
of.
when
well,
he-
one of them at least,
Mm-hmm.
shall I say? The incident with the shooting with the two Atlanta cops.
With the two Atlanta cops,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, when he came out of jail and did
I mean,
that.
that's a wild story.
That's a
Oh,
very
that's a
wild
very
story.
wild story.
Yeah.
But I know when he came out of jail and he linked up with Death Row and he did that All Eyes on Me, and he put that project out, that was like, it's a heart stopping moment in hip hop. That was like, see,
Well, and to have Machiavelli ready.
yes. I mean, the thing is, you'll never, a lot of people will never know the joy of actually going to the record store and having the physical copy and just looking at the artwork in your hand, just so
Buying
hype.
2 copies so that
Oh,
you
my
can have it for
goodness.
your car and your house. You know,
Just being so excited. I remember when Jay put out I think it was volume 3, and he made the rap about opening up the wrapping off the CD, and me and my brother was actually just have finished taking the wrapping off of the CD and put it in the car, man. Pac would still be one of the kings, and I don't get into like if Tupac was here, who wouldn't be here? I don't know.
Doesn't matter.
You know, yeah, I don't know. It might even be more people here because he might have been able to even inspire even, you know, more greatness. You know, like the level of music might even be in higher regards if Pac was here with how he was doing. And the man made so much music. Like he definitely, to me, influenced all of these guys like a Gucci, Future,
And they've paid homage.
Busta, like all of these guys who have millions and millions of records in their, hard drive. Meek Mill, he definitely showed that this is the work ethic that you have to have. You have to have catalog, not only in the marketplace but also in the stash.
I mean, how many Machiavelli mixtapes came out? Unofficial Machiavelli mix came out of just unreleased music after his
Man,
passing that he just must have been recording like crazy. Like, how did he have time for anything else?
man.
But all right, so shifting over, R.I.P. Tupac. I can't believe. I'm always shocked that he doesn't have children. That he didn't have children. That we don't have a junior, or if a son or a daughter that he had left behind. Just to see how they grow. That it stopped with him.
They're called rappers.
Huh? They're called rappers. You're right. Okay. I'll
What's
give you a
what's your
little
favorite
thing there.
What's your favorite Pac album?
I mean, I love it's. All Eyes on Me,
All
Mr.
Eyes on
Valiant,
Me,
Tango Pop
yeah.
Brothers Now. I mean,
Yeah.
you like the whole catalog. If you're a Pac fan, you like the whole catalog. You could say, okay, well, the earlier stuff, Digital Underground was a little bit different. He's a dancer then, but if you like Pac, there's definitely a distinct difference between I think it's post Suge and pre Suge. Like his involvement in his relationship with Death Row, the music drastically changes after that. I think so. I think the anger is with a lot more with the post jail and with the Suge reign. And that's where you got those albums. So he was definitely in a different headspace then when he got picked up.
He just had so much to say.
He had so much to say, and if you believe that he didn't think he was going to have the time to do it, well, then it's more understandable.
Right.
One of the most incredible things is that it just, when you look at Pac's career, obviously,
Are you still down? Yeah.
Man, him and John B. When you look at his career, obviously you think about Death Row because that was the last thing. He was in the car with Suge and he was on Death Row at the time of his death. But his time on Death Row was so short.
Yeah.
Not even a year.
They didn't know each other that long. The whole thing, it wasn't like a crew that had been built over a long time and it was his boys and blah, blah, blah. It really was a short bid before it was all over right there. So that new version and that Tupac, we only got a little piece of.
Man.
All right, so shifting over, Biggie, anniversary, Ready to Die today, September 13th, 1994.
25 years.
25
Amazing.
years.
Ready to Die definitely is in my top 5, maybe top 10 of all time, probably top 5 if I could sit down and write down the list. Funny story that people may not know about. When we was doing Hottest MCs over at MTV years ago, one of the things that spawned it was a debate we was having with Sway about Ready to Die versus Life After Death. 2 classic albums. We love both albums. Which one is the best? Sway
One's a double disc, one's not. It's hard. You have a lot more material than another one.
I mean, I was on Life After Death. I'm gonna be honest with you. I said Life After. Sway was on Ready to Die. It's a big debate. I think when we had the conversations with Puff and C's, I think Puff is on, and I may have it in reverse, but I think Puff is on Life After Death. C's is on Ready to Die. Not taking anything away from any of the project. Everybody agrees universally. They both classic. No flaws to them. But which one was better? I just feel that Life After showed the growth of him taking it anywhere. But Ready to Die, man, it's such a cinematic record. Something that you could play all the way through. And 94 was just an amazing year because you got to think about it. Doggy Style came out in 93, end of 93, but it was still popping in 94. Wu-Tang.
Because albums lasted a lot longer than
Lasted a lot
Friday
longer.
to Monday.
Yeah.
He had no choice.
Wu-Tang came out in 93, was still popping. Black Moon came out in 93, was still popping. R. Kelly 12 Play came out in 94. Nas, Illmatic, Redman, Method Man. When they was doing that Month of the Man, that was 94. Mary J. Blige, we just went to the concert. Her album, man, it was just so much that came out.
Wasn't
But
OutKast then? Wasn't Southern
yeah,
Playalistic?
Southern
OutKast.
Playalistic came out too, but Big was just able to cut through, and it was just something that actually, as big as Ready to Die is and how much it's loved, it didn't come out of the gate as the big seller. You had Snoop with Doggy Style doing like 1 million first week, and that was just out of the gate such a sensation. But when Ready to Die first came out, it was only like 20,000 or 25,000 the first week, but they kept pushing it. Word of mouth came, and people, it just
He was
started
also
spreading.
very charismatic. He was very, I mean, everything
Lovable.
about Biggie and lovable and all that. You
Everything
wanted
about
him. I
lovable.
think people wanted him to win back then. Like they were
Yeah.
attracted to the personality,
And then the records just kept, to me, they kept escalating. Like, unbelievable. That flow pattern and the way him and DJ Premier, that's a marriage made in heaven.
Wednesday was the anniversary of September 11th anniversary, and one of the things that I looked around and saw a lot of people sharing their stories about where they was on that day, how it impacted them, etc. As a New Yorker, there's a number of times that like you had like these iconic moments
Right.
and things that happened with those days that you'll never forget. And the day Biggie's album came out is like one of those days. I remember being in school and like leaving school just to go and get the album, and it's like people was in the streets,
Yeah.
just
That
like
and the
playing the
funeral.
music. It was crazy. I never really seen nothing like that before, and then like the music had backed it up, and it's like just the whole build up, for it to get to that point. It was definitely like a moment in hip hop like I've never even seen before. I saw somebody had put on Twitter the other day that was like, oh, which is one of the deaths that impacted you the most, and it was like Biggie, Nipsey, Pac, and something else. And I was just
All of
like,
them.
yeah, it was like all
I
of
still
them.
can't
but,
believe Nipsey's listed in that. I mean, this,
Yeah,
even
it's
when
crazy.
you say it, I can't believe Nipsey's listed in that.
And when you go back and you look at like Ready to Die, you like, damn, you would never think like all these years later, like all this shit would have happened.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to see like all the positives, the celebration they did for him at Barclays, the street naming, signing,
That took long enough, right? There was
Yeah.
enough pushback over the years.
what
and
his kids has
finally-
been doing, like the
Junior
wonderful
Mafia
things,
coming together.
like, the wonderful things his mom's has been doing with the estate. It's
No,
been
his daughter's got her own
right.
business. His son's
son's
acting
doing
and doing
great.
things. Everybody's successful.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
no,
been-
I
it's
mean,
been
it's
amazing.
too bad he can't see it. And
I
and,
know.
and without even knowing him, and imagine the people who did know him and felt that way of what he wasn't around for. It's heartbreaking.
But I am happy that Big was around, and we were also around to see it. We did get a chance to see him fully execute everything for Ready to Die. We never got a chance to see him perform any of the records from Life After Death, but
Right.
we did get a chance to see the, right in front of our eyes, the transformation from the street thug with Party and Bullshit, and just the records that he did on, the mixtapes with a bunch of niggas, and all the different songs that he would do with like Red Hot Lover Tone, all of these records, and then to see him, I never forget the end of that year, 94, going into New Year's, and Big Papa had come out officially as a single, and I remember just bringing in the new year with Big Papa playing, and it was just such a. I was in VA at the time. I was in VA for New Year's, and Big Papa was just killing the New Year's Eve party in the club, and it just felt so good. Like,
But it would now too.
Oh, yeah,
That's the
yeah,
thing
yeah,
is that
yeah.
it would have. I mean, the
Very
exact
timeless
thing.
records.
They're
All of them.
timeless records, right?
All of them.
His catalog, short catalog. There's a timeless thing about it that there's no reason kids from today should be able to get into it.
They gotta get into it, and and one of the things I hope the DJs bring it back. Like I don't really hear it in much of the clubs now, 25 years later, obviously, as we did, but for a long time, man, the Biggie set in the club, when you go out to the club,
that would get the people hyped.
they go from One More Chance to Who Shot You to Unbelievable, Big Papa, just so many like that. People forget that Biggie just really brought in that real, just as thuggish as it was, and hood as it was, and street as it was just that real feel good music. Like he made, like, when he say ashy to classy, like he really did it. Like, he popularized the high lifestyle, like the Versace, the champagne, the women, the cars. Like, he really, sunglasses, Ready to Die, brought that out. And the imprint is on every single thing that we see in some shape, form. And one of the last things I say about Big, because Big is my favorite rapper, so I could talk about him for a whole podcast itself. But he had the cheat code. First of all, the voice.
Yeah.
He has a voice unlike any other. I think, like, Big, Snoop Dogg, the late great Guru, Jadakiss, some of the best signature idiosyncrasy voices that we ever hear. Like, when you hear Big on the track, just his voice alone. And then I think Big got one of the best flows ever, and the way he just delivered the voice on every single song, whether it was aggressive, whether it was smooth. He has such a great sense of humor, bringing the sense of humor to the music, man. Ready to Die is just one of the masterpieces that I think everybody in rap had to study when it came out. And Big, he said a big emphasis on him when he was making Ready to Die. He was looking at what Snoop and Dre was doing.
Right.
He was looking at that Chronic, that Doggy Style. No, I'm like,
well, that was such a movement at the time. Yeah, I mean,
man. Yeah. And he, they had it. The West was so strong, and obviously they still strong right now with everything that TDE,
right? But that was something
everybody's doing. But Dre and Snoop had such a strong hold on hip hop and Death Row at the time. But we start chipping away.
Corrupt and Daz.
Oh my God, Lady of Rage, Nate. But then you saw how the East, it just started chipping away slowly but surely. Wu-Tang Clan. What the fuck is that? Oh my God, what is that? Then Nas, Illmatic. Jesus Christ. This is the second coming. This can't get any better. But, even though Illmatic wasn't a big seller, artistically, it just kind of just started chipping away.
And then over the years, they get the credibility, so maybe they weren't a Reasonable Doubt wasn't as big as we've made it now. It's the time goes by, and I think you even see the importance of those albums even more as the time goes by. Right. I mean, they were incredibly important then, but then you even see the impact as it goes. So maybe the sales weren't as, but because they are at the same time, but becomes a classic just of the importance that it had.
But I was gonna say, I think Ready to Die was in that trio. That was sort of like the grand finale. Well, not the grand finale, but the final building block, and the East Coast coming back to the highest of the heights in hip hop. Because Death Row, they had a strangle on it, but
Biggie brought it back.
He went multi-platinum. That was the thing. It's like, okay, cool. You got a dope album. You got the streets. You're official. All your street credentials are intact. Wu-Tang, it took them a while, but they eventually platinum. Illmatic didn't go platinum. A lot of bootlegging. But then Biggie, Ready to Die, it took it beyond rap. It was like, okay, now we got something from the East Coast that's a major pop sensation too, right? Because that was on MTV, that was on BET, and it had crossover appeal to it.
Yeah,
we can go on, but today is their special day. It's the anniversary of Tupac and the celebration of Biggie's Ready to Die. So I hope everybody listens to Ready to Die today.
Yeah, not to cut you
off. We listen to that every day.
Good.
It's so ironic that the two guys are just forever intertwined
with each other.
Like, just as fate would have it, Pac dies on the anniversary of Ready to Die. Like,
the irony in all of it. Yeah.
Ironic.
Yeah.
Gone too soon.